Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Wondergoal, the season finale of Wondergoal. Although we'll have the Euros in just a couple weeks, so uh, short off season for BJ and myself. I'm Michael Leboff. He's BJ Cunningham. It's presented by Bet365. In today's episode, we will talk about Cup finals galore. From the Champions League final, which is on June 2nd. We'll talk FA Cup final, which is Saturday, May 25th. Europa League final, Europa Conference League final, and of course the Championship playoff final between Leeds and Southampton on May 29th. We're going to talk about all of them on this episode, so 5 matches to go over, and then we'll get out of here, and then you'll hear from us again as we start to do our previews for the Euros 2024 coming your way in just a few weeks. All right, BJ, let's get into the Champions League final. It is Borussia Dortmund, man. I feel like I bet them to win the Champions League every year before it starts because they're always 40-1 or 60-1, and I'm like, well, this team can do it. And they didn't do it this year because they weren't that good. And well, they weren't that good, but here they are. That's tournament football for you, right? They're in the Champions League final. They are 4-1 on the three-way line against Real Madrid. Madrid is minus 167 odds on favorite on the three-way line. The draw is plus 333. These odds, of course, are from Bet365. This game is being played at Wembley in London, and Real Madrid is a prohibitive minus 334 favorite to lift the trophy. Dortmund is plus 250. You're seeing this one as kind of wide open in terms of the maybe not who's going to win, but how it's going to play out.
Yeah, I've been trying to think back, Michael, and I don't think I can remember a Champions League final that is so game state dependent, right? Because obviously Dortmund's gone through this crazy, amazing run where they've conceded 9 goals in the Champions League off of 22.2 expected. Like, it's a crazy run, like, no doubt about that. But when you look at when those chances were allowed by Dortmund, 70 to 75% of them came from an even game state or when they were playing with a lead. That's what happened against PSG. They conceded close to 4 expected goals against them over the 2 legs. PSG didn't score. And in these cup competitions, like, that's just what happens. Like, variance just happens. It's, honestly, one of the reasons why I enjoy betting this sport so much. But for Dortmund in this match, they're at their best when they're the ones playing in transition, quite frankly, when they're pressing effectively teams high up the pitch. They've shown themselves not to be very good defending in a low block, but that's what they're going to have to do here because they cannot allow Real Madrid to get in transition. They are going to get torched over and over and over again. Their transition defense has been terrible all season long. They didn't really have to get exposed with it against PSG because they were playing with a lead for a majority of over the 2 legs. And they learned from their group stage matches against them that's where PSG hit them the hardest. So if that first goal goes in and Real Madrid scores first and Dortmund has to come out and play and not just sit back and sit deep, that is going to leave them incredibly exposed for Real Madrid, who have the 3 best transition attackers, I would say, in the world, in Rodrigo, Vinicius, and Jude Bellingham. Real Madrid, when playing with a lead this season, is averaging 2.7 expected goals per 90 minutes. Like, they are incredibly difficult to play against when they can just sit back and transition from deep. But the flip side of it is like, when you look at Dortmund offensively, like, where are they at their best? Well, it's when they're playing in transition, right? They're not a very good build-up team. They've been better now that they got Sancho and Madsen in there. Sancho's been a really big key for them, dropping deep in build-up and helping them out there. Real Madrid's not going to press them. They're going to sit off pretty passively as well. So I do like over 3 goals at plus 115. I think that there's going to be essentially 2 ends of the spectrum here. Either this match is going to end 0-0 or 1-0, or it's going to end in some type of crazy, like, 5-2 type of score. I don't think there's really going to be anywhere in between. And it just, honestly, depends when that first goal goes in. And I don't think it really matters who scores it, because even if Dortmund scores first and they just decide to sit deep, they're going to concede control to Real Madrid, and they're just going to pepper the goal over and over again. And guess what? Real Madrid's a lot better at finishing than PSG is. So yeah, in terms of a side, I have this projected very closely to what the market has. Maybe a slight lean towards Dortmund, although I don't really want to play Dortmund in this match. But I do like the over 3 goals plus 115 because not only because it's game state dependent, but I do project 3.3 goals. So, and this is typically what happens in these cup finals, right? The total tends to get suppressed because it's tense, and both teams come out a little not wanting to attack from the get go. But you know, these are two teams that generally defensively play very passively, but they're two teams that can hit you pretty hard in transition. So I like over 3 goals at plus 115.
Yeah, so I'm kind of in a similar boat in terms of how I see this playing out. I thought what you said about this game is either going to end with like 1 goal or 0 goals or a ton, and I think I want to bet into the latter. I like Real Madrid to cover the alt lines. I think that, like you said, like Dortmund's path to victory here is get ahead and hang on. Whereas I think that's fine with Real Madrid, and I think if Real Madrid scores, gets on the board first, and whether it's in the first minute or 30th minute, like they've got the ability to score in bunches, players that can just bust the game wide open. So if you're giving me close to 5-1 on -2.5, I see like plus 480 out there. I think if Real Madrid wins this game and it goes the way that we think, it could be a runaway. I have like tip your cap to Dortmund for the way that this is going, but if they continue, like at some point you'd expect it to end. And Madrid would be it's just so clinical, and
Yeah, that's the problem,
that's not you.
right?
Yeah,
Like we can talk about XG all we want, like the differences between actual goals and expected goals, but Dortmund just has. I mean, excuse me, Real Madrid has the finishers
yeah,
that PSG just didn't have in their legs. So you cannot make mistakes against them. They will
yep.
punish you over and over again.
So yep, plus 480 on the -2.5. That's where I'm going for Real Madrid. You like the over 3 at plus 115. So that's the Champions League final. Let's talk about the FA Cup final, which is a Manchester derby.
Oh
City,
gosh.
sorry to say to you, ended up winning the title in the
Yeah.
Premier League for the fourth
Okay.
year in a row. It was almost exciting for 30 seconds when Kudus scored and Arsenal tied it up against Everton in basically the same exact time, and then uh,
Yeah.
it got not exciting after
It's
that.
okay, Michael. We'll have our day in court as the
You're
rest
gonna
of
have your
the
day in
Premier
court.
League will. So it's
Um,
okay.
Something poetic about City with their 115 charges of financial fair play, needing or rooting for Everton, who had the
Yeah.
point deductions. Anyways, that's
And we'll
for
probably get a third before City ever gets charged
yeah,
too.
exactly. But now it's a FA Cup final for Manchester City, and wouldn't you know, they are playing Manchester United, who had to get through by the skin of their teeth against Coventry City at one point. I mean, this is what a run to the FA Cup final for United. Honestly,
Yeah.
beating Liverpool, then needing the crazy VAR decision to get by Coventry City in the next match. It feels crazy that they're here, but they are. It feels almost appropriate that this is how their season is ending. City on the three-way line is -300. Man United is +700 on the three-way line. The draw is +450 to lift the trophy. Man City -600, and United is 4-1. I want to bet United here. I do think that maybe there's a smidge of value going that way. Is it crazy? I don't know. I feels like this game's gonna be drunk.
Yeah. So it hasn't gone well for United this season against City in their two
No, it has
meetings.
not.
Over the two meetings, City beat them twice. One was 3-0. One was 3-1. So 6 goals scored, 7.3 expected goals created, 47 shots, 106 touches in United's penalty area in 2 matches. And the second meeting, you saw the limitations of what Manchester United has defensively. We know how bad they are defensively. We don't have to talk about that at length. by the way, finished the season allowing the third most shots in Premier League history, which is just a hilarious stat. And then the fact that they're even in a position to potentially get a Europa League spot is hilarious if they actually win this match. But anyway, that second meeting, if you remember, Rashford scored early, so they just sat as deep as they possibly could, conceded like 90% of the ball to City, and just hoped and prayed to God that they could keep them out. And they were leading City for a long period of time, and City created over 2 expected goals in that first half against them. And that is what they're going to have to do here, because the pressing structure is not going to work. Like, they're not going to be able to press City effectively. If they do that, they're going to leave themselves just as exposed as they do to every other team, except this time it's the best offense that will be exposed, that will be exposing them. So for me, I've been racking my brain how to play this. The last meeting, I just laid it with City, even though I didn't have much value on it. It ended up working out, I guess, in a way. But in this match, I would either play over 3.5 at plus 110 or just City team total over 2.5 at even money would be one of my 2 plays. And United did hit them in transition a couple times, and even like my United's match against Brighton on the final day, they still were incredibly lucky to get out of there with a clean sheet. Like, they saved a couple goals off the line. Like, it was just a lot of box defending that they just like heroic stuff on the last line to keep Brighton out. It's fine to do that against Brighton, who's been the worst offense in the Premier League since February, but City's probably going to romp them here. So it's, and I agree. Like, I really want to find a way to get, I mean, I don't really want to, but I want to help people trying to find a way to get behind United here. But
yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, it's hard. It's just really hard. So I would say, unfortunately, it's probably just lay it with City type of scenario, because it's going to take a lot of crazy variance for United to stay in this match.
Yeah, that's really you're just hoping for the magic of the cup.
Yeah.
Okay, so that brings us to the Europa League final. But before we get there, a reminder that Wondergoal is presented by Bet365, and Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. That's why you get more boosts with them than anyone else. Every day they power up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. Bet365 boosts specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays. And they don't stop there. Keep an eye out for their biggest and best odds with the incredible Super Boost. Check out the boost and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. You must be 21 or older and present in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, New Jersey, North Carolina, Ohio, Virginia, or 18 and older in Kentucky. And if you or anyone you know has a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms, conditions, and restrictions apply. Okay, the Europa League final is really nicely poised as Leverkusen finished the Bundesliga unbeaten. They are unbeaten in all competitions. They've got 2 matches left on their schedule. This final on May 22nd in Dublin at the Aviva Stadium against Atalanta, and then they play Kaiserslautern in the DFB Pokal final. Atalanta on the 3-way line is plus 333. Leverkusen is odds on minus 125. The draw is plus 275 to lift the trophy. Atalanta is plus 200. Leverkusen minus 250. BJ, is there value on Xabi Alonso and Leverkusen to join the ranks of the Invincibles?
No is the answer. Like, the market has clearly gotten too high on Leverkusen. Like, that's just been happening for a while now. But what I will say is, even though I'm projecting a little bit of value on Atalanta, I do believe this is a really, really good matchup for Leverkusen. So, like, Atalanta, without a doubt, is a really good defensive team out of possession. Like, they're very good at playing passively. They're very good at pressing high. It's been a staple under Gasperini for a long time. But when you think about and you look through some of the teams that Atalanta has played this season, especially in Serie A, a lot of teams in Serie A are very slow, for lack of a better word. Their rotations are slow. Their fluidity and buildup is slow, and it's just makes it a lot easier to defend when teams are slow. And I know that they pulled off this upset against Liverpool, and I know that's a match that everybody's going to point to say that they can do this. But Liverpool is a much different team than Leverkusen, and I'm not sure that Atalanta has played a team with the style of play that Leverkusen has. So Leverkusen, I think the overarching question is like, how do you beat them, right? Because nobody's been able to do it yet this season. Well, there's two schools of thought. Number one, you either press them and you press them relentlessly and you do it in a man-to-man fashion and you just go for it, which is what Atalanta did to Liverpool, or you sit back in a very passive defensive block and you hope for a bad variance day from them. And so far, they've been on the right side of variance. They've had, can't even count how many stoppage time goals, which is a lot of people will say they're lucky, but like to get a unbeaten run like this, you are going to need a lot of luck. And they've gotten a lot of luck through this period. But when they're in buildup, they're always in three-man combinations. They're always in passing triangles. They're always having overloads over their opponents, no matter if they're playing passively or if they're pressing them. And the fluidity in their buildup, I think, is what makes them very unique and very different as opposed to a team like Manchester City or Arsenal or Bayern or even, PSG for that matter, is, teams like Manchester City want to play through the middle of the pitch. Teams like Arsenal want to play out wide, and that's where they want to get those overloads. Leverkusen does it everywhere. Like, it really doesn't matter. Like, they just try to find pockets of space wherever they can find it. And they're so effective at doing that it makes it very, very difficult to defend when you're constantly in either 2v3s or even 3v3s for that matter against the dribblers and the ball possessors they have. If you look at some of the teams that Atalanta's faced that, at least have somewhat of a similar type of buildup, I would say Thiago Motta's Bologna is the first team that comes to mind that is very similar to how Leverkusen builds up. Bologna beat Atalanta in both meetings. Even Inzaghi's Inter. I know they're a transition-based team, but they're very good in build-up when they want to build up. Atalanta lost both meetings against Inter as well. So I think this is a great matchup for Leverkusen. They're a really, really good counter-pressing team. The one weakness that they would say they have is they're pretty poor at defending set pieces, and Atalanta is not really that physical of a team in terms of getting on those set pieces. The one team I'll say who's had success against against Leverkusen, the best I would say is Stuttgart in the Cup and both in the Bundesliga. They played them incredibly tough in both meetings, and it's because they are an elite transition team. And Atalanta does have guys who can beat you, but given how they've played against Bologna and against Inter, it's a little concerning how they're going to stop Leverkusen. So Leverkusen minus 125. Again, don't project much value on it. Holding a Leverkusen 10-1 ticket that I'm probably just going to let ride, but I get that, people are going to want to bet on this match. And if I were to bet it, I would just bet Leverkusen.
Okay, so that is, as I said, Wednesday, May 22nd. A week later is the Europa Conference League final between Olympiacos out of Greece and Fiorentina out of Syria. Olympiacos is plus 200 on the three-way line. Fiorentina is plus 135. The draw is plus 220. To lift the trophy, it's minus 150 for Fiorentina and Olympiacos at plus 110. I have a feeling you're going to be on the Greeks here.
I'm not actually.
Wow.
Which is crazy.
First time you haven't bet against Fiorentina all year.
And I think this is an important lesson in betting in general, Michael. Yes, I've came on this podcast and I faded and I've said horrible things about Fiorentina basically for the entire season. And it's generally because I believe that the market overvalued them comparatively to their talent level and what their underlying numbers were. They are a better build-up team than Aston Villa in terms of actually possessing the ball and not turning it over. So that's a plus because Olympiacos is going to press them. They're going to press relentlessly, and they're going to try to play in transition, which is generally not a great matchup for Fiorentina. But I do project Fiorentina at minus 144 to lift the trophy. And here's why. From a projection standpoint, I have Serie A about 0.9 goals better than the Greek Super League. And if we were going purely based on talent, total squad transfer value, Fiorentina is well more than double that of Olympiacos. So they get about a 0.4 goal advantage there. So, even though they only have about a plus 0.2 expected goal differential in Serie A, and Olympiacos is about plus 0.8 in the Greek Super League, that's still mathematically gets me to a position where I am showing little value on Fiorentina. And the one thing about Olympiacos is yes, they will press them effectively, but relying on a couple transition attacks, especially against a good build-up team that can control matches, is generally a difficult thing to sell, especially when you're only laying plus 110, even money to lift the trophy, right? If we came in here, if Fiorentina was minus 200 and Olympiacos was plus 170, I'd be yes, let's go Olympiacos. But the numbers dropped way too much, and I think it's gone a little too far. So I like Fiorentina. There's a minus 130 out there right now. I wouldn't play it beyond minus 130, but this is kind of one of those scenarios in betting that you kind of have to put your biases aside, and I'm just going to trust my numbers.
Yep. That one is taking place at the OPAP Arena in Athens. So not technically a home match for Olympiacos. I think that is it is the home of AEK Athens. So, all right, and that's brings us to the last match that we will talk about during this regular season. As I said, we will be back very soon to talk Euros. We'll go, window to the wall coverage, soup to nuts. June 14th, it kicks off with a match between the hosts, Germany and Scotland. We'll be getting together well before that. We'll have every match covered, we'll give out futures beforehand, all that good stuff. So don't think we're going anywhere anytime soon.
All the content for you that you could ever want.
Yeah. But before we get there, we have to talk about the 20th team for next year's Premier League. It will be Leeds or Southampton. This matchup taking place at Wembley on Wednesday, May 29th, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Leeds is plus 137 on the three-way line, so they are the favorite. Southampton plus 200, and the draw is plus 225. BJ, any thoughts here on this match?
It's an interesting match to say the least, because these two teams met on the final day. Southampton was already locked into the 4 seed. Leeds needed a win and hope that Ipswich lost because they had the goal difference over them to potentially get that second automatic spot. And what ended up happening is Southampton won. They beat them 2-1. It was a very even match if you look at expected goals. And, the way that this match is going to play out is Southampton's probably going to control a majority of the possession, which is kind of what Leeds wants them to do. If you watch Leeds against Norwich, you saw how effective they can be in those quick transition moments. And that's something West Brom actually had a lot of success with against Southampton. And Southampton, quite frankly, wasn't very good offensively in that second leg against West Brom, because, yes, they scored 3 goals, but one was a penalty, and they only created 1.3 expected goals total for the entire match. So half an expected goal from their remaining 9 shots is not very effective. They had 12 touches in West Brom's penalty area, which is an incredibly low number. I've mentioned before, but Leeds is an elite out of possession team from a championship standpoint. 0.81 non-penalty expected goals allowed. They're very, very good defending in transition. They're very good defending their own box. So I think this match kind of plays out exactly how they want to, because Southampton is controlling over 60% of the ball this season. So they can concede possession to them. They can look to press them, and then they can get going forward and hopefully force some high turnovers here against a team that can be very prone to giving the ball up. So, if I were to play Leeds, I would probably just play them on the three-way line at plus 150. I think it's the best number that I found out there. I have them projected at plus 132. But as far as to lift the trophy, I think that number is about right. But if I were to bet anything, it would be Leeds to get promoted. in regular time here.
All right. That does it. So that covers all your cup finals coming your way between now and June 2nd when the season wraps in at Wembley with Dortmund and Madrid. Just to recap that one in case you already forgot, BJ likes the over with Dortmund and Real Madrid. I like Real Madrid to cover, win by at least 3 at plus 480. And that'll do it for us this season. We will be back, as I said, early June to discuss Euro 2024 futures, group previews, all that. And then we will pick it up from there, go match by match, and try to have another solid international tournament. We'll talk Copa America as well along the way. So for BJ, Michael, thank you to you for listening all season. Thank you to our producer, Noah, and David for producing all season. It's been a lot of fun, and we will see you again for the Euros.